Welcome to our video about 5 scary stories based on real paranormal events. Story 1. The Thing in Shaft 12, Herberton, QLD. The hills around Herberton are riddled with old mining shafts. Crumbling tunnels once carved by desperate hands chasing tin, silver, and gold. Most of them are sealed, forgotten, but some aren't. And one of them is still breathing. Part 1, The Collapse, 1907. In the spring of 1907, Shaft 12 at the Blue Wren mine collapsed unexpectedly. 4 men were killed instantly. But it wasn't the collapse that made headlines. It was what the 5th man, Albert Fenton, said when they pulled him out. It wasn't the rocks that grabbed them. He died a week later from internal bleeding. Before he went, he scrawled a message on the wall of his hospital room. It lives in the dark. Don't let it out. The mine was closed. Shaft 12 was sealed, but that wasn't the end of it. Part 2, The Sound Returns, 1964. Decades later, in 1964, a group of geology students were surveying abandoned mine sites when they camped near Shaft 12. That night, they recorded a deep rhythmic sound coming from the sealed shaft, like something breathing. One of the students, Michael, went missing before sunrise. They found his boots, but no tracks. His journal was recovered later. The final entry just said, "It's under us." It never left. Part 3. The Sealed Hatch, 1991. Council workers stabilizing the nearby hillside uncovered a reinforced steel hatch behind layers of old timber and stone. No one had reported it, no records existed. They opened it, they shouldn't have. The next week, every piece of machinery on site failed. Workers reported cold spots, flickering vision, and the feeling of being watched underground. One man quit after seeing something in the tunnel. He said it mimicked his father's voice, but twisted. Part 4. Don't Go Alone. In 2018, a bushwalker went off-trail near the Blue Wren site and fell through into a partially collapsed shaft. Rescuers got him out. He was delirious. Covered in scratch marks, he kept repeating, "It's not dead." It waits for noise, it feeds on sound. Locals say they sometimes still hear low moans at night near the old mine, echoing from nowhere. One hiker claims he heard tapping coming from under the ground. Regular, deliberate, like Morse code. Part 5. The Thing Below. Some say it's the ghost of miners. Others think it's older than the town. Whatever it is, something lives beneath Herberton, deeper than any record shows. The Blue Wren mine has long since disappeared from maps. The vegetation grew back. But if you walk too close to where Shaft 12 once was, some nights you'll feel it. A breath on your neck, a sound in your ear. And if you speak, it hears you. Story 2. The Fire Beneath Nimbin, NS War, Australia. Nimbin is known for its vibrant colors, counterculture history, and that thick mist rolling off the nightcap ranges. But not all of that fog is from smoke. Some say it hides something older, something still awake. Because deep in the rainforest hills, where the fire trails crisscross abandoned grow sites and collapsed caves, people have whispered the same warning for decades: don't dig where the flame went out. Part 1. The Burning Tree, 1973. During the Aquarius Festival of '73, a small group of artists set up camp on a ridge above Nimbin, near an old cedar logging road. One night, they lit a bonfire next to a massive burnt-out fig tree, blackened, hollow, and still warm despite decades of rot. That night, all of them had the same dream. A woman made of ash, standing in the fire, smiling. When they woke up, the tree had reignited, but there were no embers in the pit. They left in a panic, leaving everything behind. Their tents and belongings were found stacked in a perfect circle, with charcoal handprints pressed against the fabric. Part 2. The Quarry Voices, 1996. In the 90s, a disused quarry north of town was a known party spot. One night in '96, a group of teenagers claimed they saw shadows moving through the rock walls, dancing in time with their music. One girl went missing for an hour. When they found her, she was sitting cross-legged in the bush, humming a melody none of them knew, in a language none of them recognized. She kept repeating, "They told me the fire's under Nimbin now. It's sleeping. Waiting." Part 3. The Underground Flame. Locals talk about a cave system buried deep under the rainforest, too unstable for proper exploration. But one man, an old bushie named Russ, claims he found an opening near Hanging Rock in 2005. Said the air smelled like sulfur and the walls pulsed with heat. He went in with a torch and came back crawling, his hair scorched, clothes smoldering, eyes wide as dinner plates. All he said was, "It breathes when you speak." He refused to go near the mountains again. Part 4. The Glow in the Sky, 2022. In early 2022, hikers camping along the Protester Falls Trail reported seeing a soft orange glow deep in the trees. No fire, no smoke, just a floating haze. Photos taken that night showed human silhouettes in the mist, dozens of them, unmoving. Locals blamed old mining flares or camera glitches. But one photo showed something different, an open mouth in the trees, huge, glowing from within. Part 5. The warning elders from the nearby Bunjalung community have long warned of sacred fire sites in the hills that were never meant to be disturbed. They say something was buried here, long ago, and the land was meant to keep it sealed. But with all the digging, the clearing, the flames, it's waking up again. So if you're walking Nimbin's hills and you see firelight where there shouldn't be any, don't follow it. Don't speak near it. And whatever you do, don't dream in its shadow. Story 3. You ever heard of Mossman? It's a small sugarcane town in far north Queensland. Lush rainforest, old cane fields, and a silence that feels watched. Ask the locals, and they'll talk about the watcher. Not loudly, not at night. It started with the fields near 4 Mile Road. Every cane town has ghost stories, but this one's different. They say if you're out there around sunset, you'll hear a second set of footsteps behind yours. But when you stop walking, the steps keep going. Always just one behind, always just watching. In the 1940s, a cane worker named Vince went missing out there. He was tough, ex-military. One night, he took a shortcut through the paddock. He never made it home. They found his boots standing neatly in the dirt. No blood, no drag marks, just boots, like he stepped out of them and vanished. That's when the elders started warning people about a spirit that guards the cane. Not a ghost, not human. Something older, they called it the Duraman. Before colonization, it was a protector of the rainforest. But after the land was cleared, something inside it changed. Now they say it punishes anyone who disrespects the old places, especially outsiders, especially if they whistle, and especially if they go into the cane alone. A few years back, a YouTuber came to Mossman to make a debunking video. Typical city guy, big mouth, no respect. He even filmed himself walking the old tram line, laughing, saying the name Duraman over and over like it was a joke. The video never went live. But a week later, the post office received a USB in the mail. No return address, just one file. You hear him talking, then laughing, then the wind picks up and everything goes dead quiet. He turns his camera and behind him is something massive. Not a person, not an animal. It's tall black, bark for skin, arms that hang past the knees, legs bent backwards like a dog, and no face, just 2 deep pits where eyes should be. Then the screen cuts to static. No one's seen him since, and now no one will walk those fields at dusk. But the story doesn't end there. Truckies on the highway near Newell Beach slam their brakes, claiming they saw a figure standing in the middle of the road. But when they get out, there's nothing there. Just a smell of wet dirt and burn marks in the bitumen. Hikers in the Daintree report hearing screeching calls at night, like metal on metal, echoing through the trees. Sometimes tents are slashed open, but nothing is ever taken. Just scratches too deep for animals, and footprints too big to be real. The scariest part? Mossman school kids have been asking their parents the same question for years. Who's the tall man in the cane that waves to us after school? Only problem is, there's no one there. Warning. Locals say never walk the cane fields near 4 Mile Road after dark. Never whistle, never say its name. And if you hear someone call your name from the cane, don't answer. Story 4. Most tourists who visit Port Douglas see paradise. Sunlit streets, breezy palms, resorts hugging the coral sea. But the locals, especially the older ones, know there's another side to this town. One that creeps in through the mangroves after dark. One that whispers of something lost or left behind. They call her the Mangrove Bride. It begins with an old story. Back in the late 1800s, when Port Douglas was booming off the back of the gold rush in the tablelands, ships would constantly arrive and leave via the Dixon Inlet. One night during the build-up season, a paddle steamer called the Ruby Dawn docked at the wharf. On board was a young bride-to-be, Isabel Ward. She was set to marry a surveyor who worked on the Mowbray River. But Isabel never made it to her wedding. According to legend, a freak storm came in fast that night. Lightning hit the docks, trees were ripped from the earth. And in the chaos, Isabel vanished. Some say she wandered into the mangroves after seeing someone, or something, calling her name from the trees. Others claim she was swept into the inlet and her body never recovered. The only thing ever found was her torn veil, tangled high in the branches of a ghost gum near 4 Mile Creek. Now, over 100 years later, people still report strange sightings around the mangroves of Port Douglas, especially near the Sugar Wharf and Island Point. Boaties speak of a pale woman seen standing knee-deep in the water at low tide. She wears a soaking white dress, her hair draped over her face. One fisherman swears she was staring up at him from the bank, unmoving as he launched his tinny before sunrise. When he flicked on his floodlight, she was gone. No footprints, no splash. Teenagers partying at Rexmeal Park have heard crying from the tree line. Others say you can hear singing, soft and old-fashioned like a lullaby. A local wedding photographer once caught a pale blur in the background of a couple's beach photos at St. Mary's by the Sea. He didn't think much of it until he zoomed in and saw what looked like a woman's face, watching. Here's where it gets worse. People don't just see her, they feel her. There have been dozens of reports, mostly from tourists, of overwhelming nausea, dizziness, or sadness while walking alone along the mangrove boardwalks. One woman collapsed and had to be carried out, claiming she felt like she was being dragged under the roots. Another left a review online saying she saw a bride in the trees and begged others not to walk the trail alone. One backpacker told a bartender he'd heard whispering while camping off 4 Mile Beach. Just one word over and over: stay, stay. He left that night. Never came back for his gear. Even the traditional custodians of the land, who hold deep respect for the area's spirits, warn that the mangroves between Dixon Inlet and the Mowbray River are a place of unrest. One Kukuyalanji elder told a local guide to never enter when the tide's halfway, a time when the living and dead cross paths. What makes this story truly haunting is that Port Douglas has no official record of Isabel Ward. No wedding license, no missing persons report, nothing in the archives. It's as if she never existed. Yet too many have seen her. Too many have felt something cold brush past them in the humidity. Too many brides have had their wedding photos photobombed by a ghostly figure in white. The theory, Isabel may not have died from a storm. Some say her fiancé never showed up, and she drowned herself out of grief. Others whisper she was murdered by someone from the ship. Either way, her spirit has never left, and now she waits in the mangroves, still dressed, still lost, still searching, calling out to those who walk the inlet alone after dark. So, if you're ever in Port Douglas and the wind dies down, and you hear a voice ask, "Have you seen him?" Don't answer. Just walk fast. Story 5. Atherton QLD, The Last Tiger. Atherton might seem like just another sleepy tablelands town. Quiet streets, misty mornings, a bakery with the best meat pies in FNQ. But ask the older locals, and you'll hear a different version of this place. A version where something still walks the outskirts. Something that shouldn't exist, something with stripes. They call it the last tiger. Most people think the Tasmanian tiger, or thylacine, went extinct in the 1930s. But up here in the Atherton tablelands, sightings have never stopped. Farmers report livestock found dead with surgical bite marks, not torn like by dogs or dingoes, but something precise. Gray nomads claim they've seen a striped dog cross the road at night. Long jaw, stiff tail, moving unnatural in the fog. Some even say the creature watches from behind the tree line, but only shows itself to people it's chosen. The earliest Atherton sighting on record goes back to 1954, when a boy named Toby Rollins followed a strange trail through his dad's paddock, paw prints with 5 toes and claws. He never made it home. All they found was his lunch tin, half buried in the red dirt. In 1983, a bushwalker named Jenny Thorpe swore she came face to face with it on the edge of Halloran's Hill. It was dusk and she'd stopped to tie her boot. She heard a huff behind her, like an animal breathing heavy. She turned. 10 meters away was something tall and gaunt, with tiger-like stripes, gray-brown fur, and dead glassy eyes. But it didn't move like a dog. It stalked low, intelligent. She backed away. When she blinked, it was gone. Years later, she described it as not just a thylacine, something more wrong, like the bush itself had grown teeth. The creepiest theory? That it's not an animal at all. That it's the spirit of the last thylacine, twisted by extinction, revenge, and grief. A ghost predator bound to the forest. It doesn't just survive, it hunts. In 1999, a pair of teens dared each other to camp in the bushland just behind the Atherton High School oval. They took photos, smoked a bit of weed, and joked about the ghost tiger. The next morning, one was missing. His mate was found at the edge of the scrub, in a state of shock, bleeding from deep claw marks across his back. He kept mumbling, "It's not dead. It's never been dead." Even in recent years, sightings continue. 2020, dashcam footage showed a striped figure loping across the Gillies Range turnoff in the rain. The footage was pulled offline 2 days later. 2022, a wildlife officer claimed to have found thylacine-style prints in Atherton Forest Reserve, but her report was buried. In 2024, a couple swore they were stalked by a long dog near Hasty Swamp Boardwalk. The creature never got closer, but its eyes reflected red, and it followed them, all the way back to their car. But it's not just the animal people fear, it's the feeling that comes with it. Every story mentions the same thing, the stillness. Like the air thickens, like the birds go mute, like something older than time is watching you from the trees. And sometimes, just sometimes, if you're alone in the bush after dark, you'll hear the soft, low yip of a creature that's supposed to be extinct, and see the glint of two pale eyes just above the grass. So next time you're passing through Atherton, don't wander into the forest at dusk. Don't ignore the silence, and if you hear a rustle behind you, don't run. It likes the chase. Thank you for watching.